I'm going to talk about for me, a really interesting topic and why I think there's more to life after death than just nothing. So, we're going to get into that today. I'm Abigail, here to normalize these conversations and education about death and dying so we die better than live life. Let's get into it. I'm going to stick to the stuff from my hospice and palliative care experience for this one. When people ask me if I think there's more to life after death, I have other kind of evidence and reasons for that too, but I will stick to mostly my hospice and palliative care experience and just a couple of themes there because I saw it so many times, and I know this is all anecdotal, but when you see something repeatedly, you really start to it kind of changes and solidifies certain beliefs and views that you have. And in this in particular, we're going to be talking about, life after death and why I think we have something to look forward to when it comes to life after death. When I was in hospice and palliative care, whether it was at the bedside or, listening to my previous staff talk about their experiences, especially at those last moments, and especially when it comes to things like knowing when somebody was going to die pretty soon, there was something that always happened in most of these instances that was a real giveaway in terms of when somebody was going to die soon, but it was something that provided a lot of comfort, particularly to the family. And I know for me as a nurse and caregiver, that was certainly something that gave me a lot of confidence in terms of, comfort for the patient. So I remember going into a patient of mine's home and getting there. And when I answered the door, when they answered the door, I rang the doorbell. When the family member answered the door, they said, "Oh my gosh, Abigail, you wouldn't believe what I just saw. This is just so weird." So they proceeded to tell me that their loved one who was dying in their bed and that I was going to check in on, earlier in the day, they were reaching out in front of them with their arms and their hands. And then they started talking to someone by their name. And this person, I believe, what I remember is they were saying mom, and they were talking to their mom. So it was this person's grandmother. And they were saying things like, "I see you, da 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 da." And I really forget all of the details. I really wish I remembered all the details. But this wasn't the only time I saw that or heard about it. I remember many instances throughout my 15 or so years in hospice and palliative care where my staff either was explaining this and talking about it, or I would talk to other family members and loved ones who were saying that, mom, dad, my loved one, I just saw them reaching, and this person, in this state, usually they're already kind of, in bed. For the most part, they're just not really communicating much. So you have this person that almost is like kind of half asleep, but they're reaching out for something. And they may be mumbling under their breath. They may be saying a name of a person or a loved one that has already died. And it's what it does, and what we really think happens. And when we're talking to our family members, they can confirm that, they're talking to somebody that has already died, that's part of our family, or they're talking to a previous loved one, like their spouse or whoever it is that died already. And if anything, I think these types of moments gave loved ones a lot of comfort in knowing that the person who is dying really isn't alone. And I have seen it, heard it more times than I can describe here, to the point where I am just thinking, there's something more after this life than we give credit for. Now, when it comes to things like faith and trusting the universe, your religious deity, whatever it is, that's specific to you and that speaks to you, I'm, good, great, if that's your thing, that is wonderful. But there's a part of me that's also like a realist too, and I like to have a little bit more evidence that I like to see for myself. So in these last 20 years as being a nurse, it's just been the coolest thing, particularly at end of life, to see these things, particularly the situation where a person who is in that dying state and is really not responding well to a lot of other communication because they're dying, naturally just kind of reach up into the air and start communicating with people that have already died. In that, this person that has already died is already there with them, so they're not even alone, and they're going to accompany them as they're dying in that dying process. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you have other stories specifically that are kind of like this, or maybe something else that has given, maybe hopefully you comfort and your loved ones comfort. All right, we'll continue these conversations and education about death and dying so we die better at end of life. My name is Abigail. Please take care. I'll talk to you soon.